Today, an FDA approval in myeloma, a priority review in ALL, promising Phase 3 findings in a trial for breast cancer, highlights from the 2017 Genitourinary Cancers Symposium, and disappointing data in a liver cancer study. Welcome to Enclave News Network. I'm Gina Columbus. The FDA has approved lenalidomide as a maintenance treatment for patients with multiple myeloma following autologous hematopoietic stem cell transplant. The approval is based on findings from two large clinical trials that compared maintenance lenalidomide versus no maintenance after auto HSCT. The primary endpoint of both studies was progression-free survival. In CALGB 100104, the median PFS was 5.7 years with lenalidomide maintenance versus 1.9 years for no maintenance, a 3.8-year benefit. The median overall survival in the CALGB trial was 9.3 years with lenalidomide maintenance versus 7 years for no maintenance. In the IFM 200502 trial, the median PFS was 3.9 years versus 2 years, respectively, representing a 1.9-year benefit. In this study, the median OS was 8.8 years versus 7.3 years, respectively. Inotuzumab ozogamicin has received a priority review designation from the FDA for the treatment of patients with relapsed or refractory acute lymphoblastic leukemia. The application is based on findings from the Phase 3 INNOVATE study, in which the anti-CD22 antibody-drug conjugate reduced the risk of progression or death by 55% versus standard therapy. Overall survival was also improved with inotuzumab ozogamicin versus chemotherapy, but it was not found to be statistically significant. Under the priority review program, the FDA will decide on the biologics license application within 6 months versus the standard 10-month review. This decision comes after a breakthrough therapy designation for ALL received for inotuzumab ozogamicin in October 2015. In breast cancer, the PARP inhibitor olaparib was found to improve progression-free survival compared with standard chemotherapy in patients with BRCA-positive, HER2-negative disease. AstraZeneca, the manufacturer of the agent, stated that it plans to present the full results from the Phase 3 Olympiad trial at an upcoming medical meeting, as well as communicate with regulatory authorities regarding the data. Additionally, the initial safety data are consistent with previous olaparib studies. In a Phase 2 proof-of-concept trial published in The Lancet in 2010, there were positive results for olaparib as well. In patients who received olaparib at 400 milligrams twice daily, the overall response rate was 41%, and in those who had olaparib at 100 milligrams twice daily, the ORR was 22%. The 2017 Genitourinary Cancers Symposium took place in Orlando, Florida last week, showcasing a number of promising findings for patients with these malignancies. In one study presented, patients with PDL1 positive metastatic renal cell carcinoma were found to have a 36% reduction in the risk of progression or death when given the frontline combination of atezolizumab and bevacizumab versus sunitinib. In the Phase 2 trial, the median progression-free survival was nearly twice as long with the combination at 14.7 months versus 7.8 months. The overall response rate differed little among the three groups in the intent-to-treat analysis: 32% with the combination, 29% with sunitinib, and 25% with atezolizumab monotherapy. In locally advanced or metastatic urothelial cancer, durvalumab was found to show compelling clinical activity as well as a manageable safety profile as second-line treatment. Results of the Phase 1-2 study, also presented at the GU meeting, showed that 24% of patients were alive without disease progression at 6 months, as well as 17% at 12 months. The overall survival rate was 60% at 6 months and 51% at 12 months. The overall response rate with the PDL1 inhibitor was 20.4%, and objective responses were achieved in patients with and without PDL1 expression. 21 patients attained objective responses with durvalumab, including 4 complete responses. Responses occurred after a 1.4-month median duration of treatment, and 17 of the responses persisted for at least 6 months. The median duration of response had yet to be reached. The combination of olaparib and durvalumab were found to have clinical activity in patients with metastatic castration-resistant prostate cancer, according to results of a small ongoing trial presented at the GU Cancer Symposium. Overall, 8 out of 10 patients had a reduction in prostate-specific antigen level, including 5 patients who had declines in PSA tests exceeding 50% or more from baseline. The cohort had a median progression-free survival of 7.8 months. The best PSA responses range from a decline of 15% to a decline of 99%. Other patients had declines from baseline of 94%, 79%, 73%, and 59%. Responses were observed in patients who had only bone metastases and in those who had bone plus soft tissue visceral metastases, regardless of the number of prior lines of therapy, and in patients with or without mutations in DNA repair pathways. Finally, in hepatocellular carcinoma, the MET inhibitor tuvatinib did not demonstrate an improvement in overall survival compared with placebo as a second-line therapy for patients with MET overexpressing inoperable disease in the Phase 3 MET IV HCC study. The companies co-developing the agent, Daiichi Sankyo and Arcule, said that while they are not yet releasing findings from the study, they did note that OS, progression-free survival, and safety data would be presented at an upcoming medical meeting. That's all for today. Thank you for watching Enclave News Network. I'm Gina Columbus.